Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan. Merriel was supposed to join us today, but he had something come up, so we actually have a special guest, Daniel Hayes. How's it going, Daniel?
What's up, guys?
So for those of you who don't know who Daniel is actually the tournament director for the Saltwater Survival Series. It's I think, one of the better kayak and fishing tournaments on the Texas coast. I should actually take that back. You allow wade fishermen as well. So kayak and wade fishing tournaments on the Texas coast. And I'm glad that you can join us.
Glad to be here. Appreciate you inviting me.
Funny story about why Daniel was here. About 15 minutes before we hopped on the air, Merriel called me and says that he was not able to make it. And much like tournament fishing, and which we're going to discuss today, we had to call an audible, which is why Daniel's here. But before we get started, let's actually give a shout out to our sponsors. Definitely 4A Printing. They do a bunch of our towels and merch that we do have, such as this buff with our custom logo on it. Aaron there can do a lot of stuff. So be sure to reach out if you're looking for any of that kind of things done. Also, Knock and Tail Lures. I find that I really like their soft plastics. And of course, we have our code OLCP 2022. If you use that, you get 20% off your Knock and Tail Lures order. And of course, if you listen to our last episode, they just came out with their 5-inch model, which is what I'm very excited about. And of course, DSKA, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a Facebook group to join on the Texas coast on kayaking and fishing, definitely a great place to be. So let's just jump right into kind of saltwater fishing and strategies and prep and all that. Looks like we lost Daniel. Before we actually get into that, let me actually talk about, usually we do story time at this point. Our best tournament memory. So I guess to preface this, would be the first to say that I am not the best tournament fisherman. I don't have like a lot of money in winnings. I don't have a lot of stuff, hardware floating around. In fact, I probably only have a handful, like a couple. But I do believe that tournament fisherman is a very exciting prospect for if you are new to it and if you want to experience something different from the everyday fishing. So one of my best tournament memories is, and I kind of, I may have discussed this at some point previously, but one of my best tournament memories it was a redfish tournament, actually was the Saltwater Survival Series. And I went out and it was actually, I'm sorry, it was the flounder tournament. Went out there and it was horrible. Like every single thing that I thought about that flounder tournament was completely not happening. We had a super low tide. The outgoing, which I was expecting to fish, was non-existent, super low waters. And I believe by like 8 or 9 o'clock, I gave up on flounder. I completely said, this is not going to work. Flounder's not going to happen. Let me go after the other side pots that I was entered in. So, I know it's a little bit early to be giving up at 8 or 9 o'clock whenever you have until 4 o'clock to fish, but it ended up being the right choice. As I spent the rest of the day, I found my redfish, I found my trout, and I ended up finding a flounder, and that got me in the money for some of the side pots. And I think that for me, this just proves to be like, you need to be flexible. So we have Daniel back. How about one of your? Yeah, not a problem. What's one of your favorite tournament memories that you have? I know you've fished a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, I've fished a lot of them, donated a lot of money to them, but you know how that goes.
Yes.
I haven't won many, but hey, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's a good time. I fished many tournaments. I really enjoy the team tournaments, and I think probably one of my favorite moments was I think me and John Stapleton were fishing a tournament for Upper Coast Kayak Anglers, and it was, I think it was a team event, and it was right before a cold front, and we hadn't caught any fish that day, and it was a tough day. And this cold front came on top of us and just, it smacked us hard. 30, 40 mile an hour winds, gusting, lightning, rain. We tried to catch cover, and as soon as that storm was over, we was on fish, and we ended up bringing in some nice fish and placing second place in that event. That was a fun tournament, and we put our money in. We put our time in that day for sure. That's probably one of my most memorable events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having the experience and of just grinding it out
Hmm.
and in 0 hour
Not
pulling it off. I think that
not giving up.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a very exhilarating feeling that if you have a chance to obviously you can't experience that unless you fish a tournament. So the only way to
Hmm.
do that is to sign up and fish one.
Yeah. It
Um,
seems like every tournament series that comes up, there's always something crazy going
oh
on.
yeah,
It
yeah.
can't be perfect weather for sure.
Yep, yep. So, for some of the beginners out there on especially kayak fishing, and we this podcast is more about kayak fishing. If you're prepping for a tournament, what are your basic kind of things that you take a look at whenever you're prep for a tournament?
So I'm definitely, I know I'm all the way in, right? If I'm fishing a tournament, I'm in. I'm gonna make sure that I'm checking if I'm fishing my Jackson, so I'm checking my drive first, making sure everything's oiled, make sure everything's greased. There's nothing that's gonna fail on me on the water. And I got Plan B. I gotta go. I check my paddle for cracks. I check my paddle for everything. It's as far as that. So I know if I'm gonna paddle, I got Plan B, and I'm gonna be safe. Checking my PFD, making sure my PFD is good. There's no damages, nothing's wrong with it. Um, and I mean, tournament preparation usually takes me a good 4 hours, honestly. Checking my aerator, make sure my live well's working, make sure I have all my G juice or fish saver, and all the batteries are charged up on my aerator, or if I'm using my plug-in cord, make sure it works. Uh, yeah, make sure my tackles together, oil my reels, make sure my reels are all good and oil and got good line on them, and they're not gonna snap every time I'm casting a hard top water bait or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's what my biggest go tos right off the bat are,
Yeah.
honestly.
Do you, for me personally, I have a checklist because I am prone to forgetting all
Yeah,
sorts of stuff.
yeah,
So my advice to anybody whoever is starting to fish these tournaments is to definitely just get a checklist of everything that you are expecting to bring and want to bring.
100%.
Um, and also, if it, obviously there are some situations where it's not possible, but if you could pack ahead of time, pack ahead of time.
Yeah, the
The
day
la
before.
Yeah, the last thing you wanna do is wake up and actually pack that at that point, even with the checklist, you're probably gonna forget something.
Yeah,
Um, so, yeah, just get a checklist, and for me, I packed the day before, and then the morning of, I'm looking through my checklist and making sure everything is there. So it's
yeah,
double checking everything. A little more difficult if you're traveling to a location. You kinda have to do that double check ahead of time, and then you have to, if you're staying at a hotel or something like that, you're not at home, kind of having to lock things away because things walk away from hotels,
yeah.
and that's just another layer that you have to worry about. Um, but how do you normally prep for in terms of like strategy? What's your ideal prep for strategy to on these before these tournaments?
As far as picking spots, or as far as like, what do you mean by strategy, buddy?
I guess like your like you're fishing a redfish tournament, and yeah, let's go ahead with picking spots. Like what are you looking at ahead of time?
I'm
Uh,
watching. I'm watching the wind pattern. I'm watching if it's if a southeast wind. I'm looking for cover, especially heavy winds. I'm definitely checking the weather 2 days before the tournament's coming up, because the weather here in Texas is crazy. And then light switch, you can have a storm coming on top of you. We all kind of know that. Yeah, that's what I'm checking tides, and I'm checking wind and to pick my spots, honestly, because you don't want to be on the spot and have outgoing tide with some heavy winds, and next thing you know, you're sitting on oyster beds or on mud, and you're knee deep in
oh yeah,
mud in the middle of a lake somewhere about 2 miles back in the marsh, and
and all of a
we
sudden there's no water.
we've been there and have that rush of tide go out on you, and
uh,
it's scary.
yes. Um, yeah, and I guess for me personally, for choosing a spot, and I guess this is my overall strategy. I know a lot of people, especially the more experienced fishermen, they go after like the if it's a redfish tournament, a trout tournament, or a flounder tournament, whatever, they are a lot of them are all in on that main pot.
Yeah,
So if you're fishing for if it's a redfish tournament, they're spending all day to get those two or three or however many redfish they need to for the weigh in. Um, and For me personally, I'm not at that level yet where I can just fish all day for my two or three bites.
yeah.
Um, on tournament day. If it's like if just me, I would do it just because it's a challenge for me. But on tournament day, I'm just so anxious and I'm running all over the place in my head trying to figure out what I should do. So the locations that I actually pick are I can kind of do everything, which means
Yeah,
that
give
which
a
means that
choice.
yeah. It just means that I can do everything, but also means that everything can also go wrong and there's like nothing there.
Yeah, yeah.
It also means that most likely the quality of fish that I need, um, they probably, I mean, there's no mythical spot where I can go get my 3 redfish, my, you know, 8-pound trout, and my 10-pound flounder all in one spot.
Yeah.
Um, you may get lucky and get 2 of those if you're lucky, but I think having a mythical spot where just everything comes together at once, it's not possible, but, I like having options, and like I told with my story, I just the ability to just pick up and say, I'm done with it." That's something that I think for me, it makes it fun for me.
It does, and it makes it difficult to choose a spot because you want to pick those spots that have multiple species, where you have a deep cut or a
Yeah.
deep bay system to go try to catch some trout, and then you have a shallow marsh system that feeds into a marsh where you can go smack some flounder.
Mhm.
It makes it difficult, and I think that's why I love this series so much, and and push it as hard as we have for the amount of years we have. It's fun and it's difficult for all anglers, and I think it makes it an open playing field, and everybody can win.
Yeah.
And
And you bring
something, you know.
yeah, and you bring us some good points. So, ho let's actually, let's kinda shift gears and your the Saltwater Survivor series, how let's give a little history about it. When was it founded? How what's the background behind it? How long have you been running? Kind of just give us the history behind the series.
It started back in 2015 with Justin Rich and Clint and Justin Rich and Clint Bargy, and yeah, it was introduced with it was matched up with Eager Baits, and you actually had 6 baits Eager Baits to give you, and everybody had the same colors, the same style bait, and it kind of evened the playing field for everyone. And we had a captain's meeting the night before, and those baits were handed out to the anglers and shotgun start 6 o'clock in the morning from one location, and you go one area you can fish. We would pick that fish. We would pick that spot 2 days before, and then announce it, and then everybody could launch from certain areas, but you can't fish past that boundary, and that's where it started. And I kind of and they ran it for 2 years, and then Eddie Noskisi and Michael Clemens ran it for another year to 2 years, and then that's when I came in and started helping out Eddie and took it over. And me and Tony Keel joined up forces and been running it ever since. So I think we took it over in 2018, and yeah, so this is our 4th year. Yeah, 4th year, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess for people who are wanting to fish it, what's your typical count for anglers that join the tournament?
So last year was we broke records last year. The redfish tournament, we ended up having 110 kayakers, which was huge for me and Tony.
Huge.
That was a proud moment for us. I mean, we couldn't ask for such a better turnout, and we're hopeful for this first March 12th tournament to be as big. But I mean, everybody's concentrated on the weather right now, looking at next cold front coming in, and nervous about signing up. But hey, redfish are there, I promise you.
Yep. Yeah. And um, I guess to those of you who are listening, and of course, if you want to listen to us live, you
Oh,
can
I'm
always
sorry, 5 years. I'm sorry,
5 years.
Tony.
Yes, Tony to bring
I'm
up in the
sorry,
chat.
I'm sorry, TK. Falls short, bro. This is our 5th year.
Fifth
We've
year.
done 4
Awesome.
years. Yeah.
Awesome. And for those of you who are listening to us on podcast land, if you want to join us live, you can go to facebook.com/one last cast podcast. This is where we're live right now. We try to go live every 2 weeks on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. But for those of you who are listening live, and of course, remind people that if you want a season pass, we are giving away a season pass to the Saltwater Survival Series. All you have to do is just comment within within our our comment section here, and you'll be entered. Would appreciate a like and a share as well. So if you can do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Um, and so yeah, that's awesome. That this you guys have been doing now going 5 years.
5 years.
Um,
Yeah. So that's a
what's
total of eight,
what's
almost 8 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you guys face as a tournament, running a tournament that for me as an everyday fisherman who just joins it and whatever that we don't normally see? What's some of the challenges that you face?
Man, there's so many. It's such a hard. I mean, there's a lot goes into tournament preparation, and the whole. I mean, we don't. Me and Tony don't stop. It's year round. In the off season, there's no off season. We gotta keep grinding and keeping our sponsors in lockdown and talking to sponsors and getting product and pushing them as hard as we can to give so they get the right backing from us. So we earn their keep, and that's probably the hardest thing is probably sponsors. I mean, and locking them in for the whole season. And we have some great sponsors. I mean, Fish and Tackle Unlimited, Yak Attack, Grind Terminal, H&H Rods. I mean, I can go on forever. And the location. I mean, it's tough. And then making the post and the email blasts. That's a lot goes into it behind the scenes. And honestly, getting signups that's tough too. I mean, pushing on every platform you can, but it gets to the point where people get, this is enough. I'm tired of seeing it. And
Yeah.
it gets annoying after a while. So we try not to push them boundaries too much. So, yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, and we try to. I would say sponsorship and getting signups is probably the hardest part of it.
It sounds like a full-time job.
It is, and me and Tony both we're both managers, and so we run other businesses behind the scenes, So we don't have no time off.
Yeah. I guess if we could shift gears in.
Tony called it right there. Equipment failure on site. I mean, a scale going down during the tournament. I mean, right before weigh-in starts, boom, scale ain't working. What do? You don't.
What do you do? Because that's a very important piece of equipment.
Well, right now we have backup scale. So 2 scales. You want to have 2 scales. or a weighmaster. He can't. Something happens and the weighmaster can't make it. Switching gears, right?
Yeah.
So
switching gears. Let's kind of switch back to tournaments in general. What's your idea? So actually, I know for your tournament, I believe that 12 hours before the tournament start or something like that, you're not able to fish it.
Yes, sir.
But how important is pre-fishing a tournament?
Man, honestly, you and I both know pre-fishing is tough because weather changes, tides change. Tide changes within 2 hours, difference the next day. Yep. Winds pick up from 5 mile an hour one day, like this weekend, for instance, GRS. You're looking at 5 to 9 mile an hour winds on Friday. Saturday, it's pushing 15 to 28.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're in the tidal changes within 2 hour difference. It's tough to pre-fish unless you know for a fact you're gonna have the same type of tidal surge. You're really not gonna know. And so I mean, teach to their own on that. That's an honest opinion on. I don't think it's important. But I don't pre-fish before any tournaments I fish. Maybe that's why I don't place. But but yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think tournament preparation is more important than pre-fishing.
Yeah.
So
I do share the same sentiments with you. There's one difference that I believe. I believe that every day you are pre-fishing for your next tournament.
100%.
Because like you're gathering, you're exactly right. You're gathering information. Exactly right. The day before the tournament, and if you ever fish tournaments, this is true. It's like you said, it's going to be Friday. It's going to be, 5 mile an hour winds. Beautiful, perfect tides. Everything lines up. It's a banner day if you're fishing out that day. And then Saturday when the tournament hits or whenever the tournament is, you're looking at like 30 miles an hour from the north. There's no tidal movement. Everything that could go wrong is probably going to go wrong. The conditions change, but if you take that into consideration, you fish. Hopefully, you can fish as often as you can, and you have experience with those conditions.
Yeah,
that should help you. That you have these experience with these conditions, and you can do well.
Sure.
So, I think that obviously not all of us can fish whenever we want, but whenever you do go out, just kind of learning about. But I keep a journal. That's one of the best tools that I have is keeping a journal. Is taking consideration of what the winds are doing at this time when I went out. When did I catch the fish? Barometric pressure, whatever, any variable I can think of, and that way that I write it down or I have it on my phone. And then whenever you go out to those tournament days, if it's actually that bad and you need to change up what you're doing, you have the experience to back it up.
100%. I
Yeah.
agree with that. Hey, and it's all about experience. I mean, how much time do you put on the water, and then. But I think that's what separates our tournament from everybody else's tournament. We even the playing field and give everybody options or to become angler of the year.
Mhm.
It could be it's anybody. You can be a professional tournament angler and come fish our tournament, and you're an awesome redfish. You can catch all the redfish in the world, and you're steadily and you're consistent. And the the trout tournament comes up, and you can't catch trout.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you don't have no points. You're on the board.
Yeah.
But you're going to go fish the flounder tournament because you want to try to get back on the board.
Yeah.
And you come in third place, and next thing you know, you might win Angler of the Year, but you got this guy that has been good on trout and has been good on flounder that beats you out.
Yep.
So,
and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think anybody has won Angler of the Year like in consecutive years, right?
I think Tony Duguay might have.
Okay.
Tony, do you remember, Bud? I think Tony Duguay has won back-to-back years.
Well, I mean, either way, that's a big accomplishment, especially with the format that you guys have.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
But no, it's somebody new every year. And
yeah,
it's never been like. I might be wrong. I think it was Tony Duguay one year, and then the next year was somebody else. But yeah, it's tough to win all three.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony just answers. Yeah, I don't think he has. We haven't had a back-to-back. Nope.
Yeah.
So
whenever you for these tournaments, and a lot of them now, whenever for kayak fishing, especially for boat tournaments and everything else, it's in a boat you have a live well, but for a kayak, live wells aren't really a big thing. I know some of them.
No.
Yeah, some kayaks like the Big Tuna, they kind of have that little live well in the center.
Right.
But for all the other kayaks, you don't have a live well, and you have these live weight bonuses. What's the deal with live wells? Is that something that we as a tournament fisherman that you have to kind of dive into, or is that?
I think you should have a live well. I mean, it does help out, and we're all about conservation and releasing as many fish as we can back into our base systems at each event. I mean, so I would say they are, and there's many ways to make them nowadays with Rubbermaid tubs. And I've seen so many people DIYs on the back of your kayak where your crate goes.
Mm-hmm.
Most kayaks are longer in the rear end now. They're built different. I mean, it just depends on your kayak, I guess, about building live well. But you got tournament stringers now. Tournament stringers are a very helpful tool. Grind Terminal, I think there's some more out there that I can't remember the names of, but there's so many tournament stringers with swivels that you can lock down 3 redfish on. Because Tony's right, hot fish will die. So keeping your fish fresh and in the water with constant circulation of fresh water coming in your kayak is key. But I think honestly, I don't use a live well in the water, and I have no problem keeping redfish alive. I'm not really a big trout fisherman, but same thing with flounder. I can keep a flounder alive all day. They're tough fish.
Yeah, I think
those tournament stringers are key, man. Key player in tournaments.
Yeah,
tournament fishing.
Redfish and flounder are very hardy, and trout. It seems like you look at them and they die.
Oh yeah, they're so hard. They're so hard to keep alive, man.
Yep.
But that's why our trout tournament we have low numbers on what you're allowed to bring in. You're only allowed to bring in four trout. So we don't want to kill every trout in our base system.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think in our conversations before the show, you're talking about like G juice and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
What is that? I'm actually personally not familiar with it. I know what it is, but I'm not actually familiar with it.
It's just it oxygenates redfish blood, and there's also a protein I use called Fish Saver. You can get it on Amazon, I believe, and you sprinkle on the water as well, and it brings protein and brings the slime back to the redfish, and it keeps them healthy for a long time. And you'll pull that redfish out, and it'll be flopping out, it'll be going crazy, and you might have been there dragging him around all day long, and he's just wore out by the time you put him in that live well that's in the back of your truck or in. So yeah, it's really good stuff if you're looking to keep your fish alive and to bring them back alive. G juice and redfish saver.
Yeah. So I was at a tournament and somebody was talking about it. The reason why I remember is because they said like G juice is like meth to a redfish.
100%. They get cracked out. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. It'll bring redfish back for sure if they're sluggish, mm-hmm. and you're nervous about this redfish dying. So I use it religiously every single tournament, and I put my fish as soon as I get back from and loading my stuff. That's immediately what I do. I fill it with fresh water, my cooler. I put the redfish in it. I put the G juice, put the fresh redfish saber, and I turn it on, and I put a little bit of ice on there. Just if it's especially in the summertime, you want to throw a little bit of ice in there to keep the water cool. Because if you have it in the back of your truck, it's going to get hot. And I drill holes in the top of that cooler that I have, a 64 4-quart cooler, so it's got constant airflow.
Yeah.
You don't want that water getting stagnated and bubbling up on you.
Yeah.
So I keep it inside of my truck with me. I don't care about it spilling. I mean, it happens.
Yes, it does.
Keep my AC on cool, and I roll on the way in. I've kept redfish alive for up to 2 hours, easy with that stuff.
And I know a lot of people with these live wells, so like they use these O2 bottles.
Yeah. Pro fish, they have O2 bottles. Oxygen. The more oxygen you give that redfish, the better. And that's what that G juice and redfish saver is. It just oxygenates the blood. So if you get O2 straight oxygen to the water, they're going to be even better.
Awesome. I guess we go towards some of the whenever you're fishing on the day of, and let's say you have a general idea of what the fish are going to be doing that day. But of course, like we mentioned earlier, tournament day, nothing ever really goes to plan.
Nope.
How long do you stay in one location?
I'm looking for signs. I'm looking for bait. I'm looking for grass moving if there's no wind. I'm looking for if I'm not seeing any movement, any bait, anything. It looks just like the water's just stagnant, not moving. I'm going to the first place I see where there's a bend, an elbow with some flow. I mean, that's what I'm doing. And I'm looking for birds. I'm looking for anything I can see to help me know where the fish are. If it's windy that day, I'm going to straight wind blown shoreline. That's where I'm going. I know that bait's gonna be pushed up against that shoreline. Hit that shoreline. If you don't find the redfish, I'd be surprised. But yeah, throw that popping cork. Up in that grass and work it out. Gulp if you like your gulp. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. But I'm gonna say if I don't see any of that, I'm moving. Yeah. I'm moving nonstop until I find what are those certain key things I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the downfalls of pre-fishing, and especially if you did well the day before, and you have the idea in your head that they're supposed to be here. But again,
they were here yesterday.
They're here yesterday, and conditions change, and you're just like they're supposed to be here. Sometimes even everything looks the same. Like conditions are the same, and for some reason they're just not there.
And it could be because of different tide. It could be because the water's not pushing the same as it was the day before at that time, and so you got to come back to that spot later in the day,
Yeah, but just having that knowledge in the back of your head, and it's like, why is it not working?
And that's when it gets frustrating.
That's when it gets frustrating.
And things start getting bad after that. You start getting aggravated. You start backlashing. You start breaking something.
And I guess. Obviously, we don't want any of our anglers to get to that point, but it definitely happens to everybody.
It does, man.
For you personally, what do you do when you get to that point where it's just?
I take a break. I take a lunch. I eat my snacks I brought. Drink a little whatever. If it's energy drink or if it's a water bottle, just to get calm and collected. I have a talk with myself, and then I'm back out there.
I was fishing at one of the earlier tournaments. It was one of the KO sailing tournaments, which they don't do them anymore. It was an individual tournament, but we were kind of fishing the same area. And my buddy, he was all he caught. It was a redfish tournament, and all he caught were bull reds that were like 29.
Frustrating.
And all I was catching was lower slot reds, but they were slot reds, so I was happy with it.
Yeah. But you were actually bringing stuff to weigh in.
Yeah, I was bringing stuff to weigh in, and he got so frustrated, just because he literally whenever he brought the redfish up and he saw just this giant redfish, and it was always so close, and he would measure it, and he'd be like 20 and a half, 29, 30. I remember him at some point, he actually just stopped fishing and just went off and just like floated around for a little bit and then
Yeah.
came back.
Collected his thoughts, man.
Just
That's what
collected
you
his
got to do.
thoughts. And I was like, "What are you doing?" You're like, we. He ended up. He didn't. He. I think he stopped for like 20 minutes. And I was like, You're wasting. This is one of our first tournaments. Like, you're wasting time floating
Right.
around. Like the fish are still here." Um, and he ended up first cast when he came back. He ended up with like a 27.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I remember he got a little mad because I brought in a 24 that was fatter than his 27.
That's sad.
And I ended up getting second place in that tournament. But it was I didn't understand, like, you wasted 20 minutes. That's like 20 casts right there. You could have brought fish in.
Yep.
But to your point, just taking a break, resetting, and getting
Yeah, you
yourself
got to
back into that.
reset.
Yeah.
And I hate to see, a lot of anglers, they'll go out and they'll sign up for my event or our event, and they'll come, they'll be the first one to weigh in, like right at 12 o'clock. I'm like, man, you got 5 hours of fishing. Don't throw in the towel, man. I would launch right here in Sunset Lounge and go out there and fish your butt off for the next 5 hours.
I am guilty of that. So.
I know.
There was the DSK air tournament, and it was a trout tournament, and my first trout was like that was like a 24 5.5 pound trout or something like that. Perfect trout. And it was for the weigh-in, you need to bring in 2 trout. I spent the next like hour and a half losing every single trout that I hooked on.
Oh man, that's stressful.
And I think I lost like 7 or 8 trout, just most of them right next to me, and I just needed one more. And then of course, like, the tide changed after that, and the trout bite died, and I was at the weigh-in by like noon. I just lost it.
Just frustrated. You were done.
Just frustrated. I was done. And like Merriel Merriel was a weighmaster. He's like, "Dude, you have like 3-4 hours left. Go keep fishing." And I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
I'm done."
You get past the point sometimes, and it's better to throw in the towel or than break all your rods.
Yeah.
Why do I even do this? Why do I spend all this money on this equipment?
Yes.
Yeah, there's days like that. Tournament fishing will bring out that in you every single time. It will make you test yourself and judge yourself in so many ways you've never done before.
Yeah, I think I think it helps you find yourself too.
It does.
Just digging deep into, like,
it definitely humblizes you. It makes you humble.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and I especially, one thing I do like about these tournaments is, and especially the format that you have. It seems like every single tournament, somebody else is new is on the podium.
Yeah.
And I think it lends itself to be like kind of like almost like a gambling thing, where you've reached the top at one point and you're trying to reach the top again.
Yeah.
But also it's like anything can happen, and it's just up to you to kind of make it so that you can be back to the top again.
Yeah, and that's what we're shooting for. We want new anglers to come in and be able to match up to these anglers who've been doing it for years, like yourself, like Merriel, like Jared Easley, like all those guys out there that fish these tournaments and have been Maldonado, and can come and shoot the crap with them and talk to them about fishing and be on the same level playing field. And sometimes these guys might not come up with fish, but this new guy come in that's never fished a tournament in his life and bring in a nice slot redfish or a nice big old trout, and just it humblizes everybody, makes everybody really understand that it's not your day always, man. You're not the best, you're not. Yeah. It's cool, man. So,
but also to me, it also kind of highlights the people who do well consistently. It's like, dang, they have what it takes, they know it. They have all the knowledge. Yep.
Yeah, and those guys do show up, and when they show up, man. And every single tournament they're there, and they weigh those big old fishes. And you didn't catch that same fish last year?
Yeah. Actually, I know we were talking about before we hopped onto this show, kind of some of the questions that we wanted to ask. There is one question I do want to ask in regards to kayak fishing tournaments. What are your thoughts overall about the new coming of the electric motor on kayaks?
I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to be every tournament series is going to have. I mean, bring it back and bring it into their events, and that's why we have no problem with it. And we were one of the first tournaments that brought it in, was because we actually see the kayak industry growing in that area, and you either grow with it or you fade away and you lose anglers because of it. We've got a lot of veterans that fish our tournaments. We have a lot of older guys that fish our tournaments in their 60s, 70s. So I got some guys that are retired that fish our tournaments that just can't. They don't have the paddling anymore, strength, and I want to give them the option of still being able to get out there with everybody and fish and compete. And I don't want to take that away from them. And I want to see everybody on the water. And that's all. I'm always going to agree with motors, and that's why we have read the rules. It's got to be a certain poundage. You can't just come out there with a freaking 8-pound thrust, 10-pound thrust trolling motor. You can't do that. It's not. You got to read the rules, please. So don't get caught cheating. We want you to be able to keep up with the pedal drives and not overpower them. So.
Yep. I the first time I ever saw a motorized kayak, I was actually at the Texas City Dike and we were fishing over at the Mosquito Island side, and I hopped in and waited, and there's this guy out in the kayak, and he was out towards the deep hole, and that day we caught the tide right. He was just smashing the trout. I ended up catching a bunch of good trout as well, and he wasn't anchored, but seemed like he was kind of hovering in this one spot. Yeah, with spot lock. And then I was like, man, that's interesting, because you can see the motor keep turning, just to keep him in that one spot. And eventually the bite died, and I was walking in, and he came with me. It was this gentleman. He actually he hopped out of his kayak, and he had a prosthetic leg. And that was the way that he could. That's
amazing, right?
Yeah. He hopped out. He had a nice stringer trout, and I was looking at his. I forgot what kind of kayak it was. It's probably the autopilot or something. But I was like, man, that's interesting. And then you notice the prosthetic leg, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. Right. But if you don't have the motor option, then you can't fish these tournaments. So
can't do anything. You're stuck. You can't fish it, and it's not fair, in my opinion. But we can't. You can't regulate it in the same opinion. You got guys. You're always gonna have people that want to cheat and people that don't want to follow rules. That's inevitable, and you just got to make it where it's difficult for them to cheat. And we do have polygraphs, and there will be a polygraph at one of our events. It'll be a surprise, so everybody needs to be aware of that. But yeah, I mean, I agree with motors. I do. Yeah. To a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm still a little torn about it, because I see both. Definitely see that why you should have motors, but I'm torn because of the fact that even though from a purist perspective, a pure kayak is going to be your paddling, but I consider a pedal kayak a pure kayak.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we've been Tony Keel can contest this too. We've been doing this for a long time, and I was hell bent on never being in a pedal kayak ever. I'm paddle for life. Yeah. First time tried one, I fell in love. So I mean, same thing for these trolling motors, man. But I'm gonna tell you, it's a heavy piece of equipment that you're lugging around all day. Battery fails, you're pedaling this. Now you're pedaling this heavy kayak with a battery in it. Yeah. But I've seen guys. I think it actually hinders some people because they're able to move more frequently and they're passing fish. They're nonstop moving. They're not even paying attention. They're trying to. They're in their mind. I've got this other spot I want to hit. Yeah. But there's fish right there. Yeah. Or they're scaring fish. They're not quiet.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of a kayak is that it forces you. I think kayak and wading, and even to the extent bank fishing, it forces you to learn the area really, really well.
Yes.
Like every
inch of it.
Whereas with a boat, you're gonna nothing's happening here. I'm gonna run
past it.
Yep,
that's
right.
Go
right past it.
And these guys with the trolling motors are doing that now. Yep. So it's to each other. I mean, each their own on that. So I see the benefits, and I don't. I see that it doesn't work. I'll never have one. I say that.
Yeah. You'll never have a pedal kayak either, right? So
I might have a torpedo one day.
And of course, we have Vincent Vogt here.
I see him about a skiff and stuff. Come on,
add a skiff category.
Come on, just go fish a boat tournament, buddy.
um, uh, Previously we were talking about going through this process, and you brought up like some of these like kind of cheating and stuff like that. Is it prevalent in tournaments cheating? I'm not aware of how I see news stories and stuff like that, but is it prevalent within these tournaments for cheating?
It happens, man,
Yeah.
and you just got to be the guy that stands up and says something. If you see something, say something. We can't prevent cheaters. We can't prevent something from happening unless we know it's happening.
Hmm.
So a lot of people, that I don't know if they don't want to come out and say it, or they just, they don't want to start anything. But it's always after the fact where people want to call out cheating. It's never beforehand. So cheaters are going to be always out there, and people are always going to find ways to cut corners. People are always going to find ways to beat someone, because people like to win. People are competitive,
Yeah.
and they don't like to lose. So that's always going to be an issue, and we just got to find a way to stop it the best way we can. And we can't stop it unless we know. So we need our anglers' help that's on the water or at the tournaments that see it to stand up and say something.
Yeah.
So
And I guess we don't have to go into a lot of detail, but if if as an angler, if you suspect somebody cheating, what is the process? How would you go about?
you don't want to say it out loud. You want to come up, pull myself, me or Tony Keel, directors, to the side and talk to us about it professionally, and we'll address it in a certain way we know of, and we have been taught throughout the years of doing this how to handle it. No one's going to know. It's always anonymous, and so it's not something that's going to be announced right there in the middle of everybody. So we'll do it in a professional way, and that's how we address it.
Okay. Yeah. So the process is, it obviously depends on whatever tournament you're fishing, but if you
Right.
suspect anybody of cheating, go to the directors, or they probably have somebody designated to deal with it,
Right.
and report it. And
Yep.
and I agree. It's if you see something, say something. It's all about protecting the integrity of the tournament and the sport.
That's right. And
Um,
and we want everybody to have a chance. And if you got that one person that wants to make it a bad experience, then we want to get rid of that person.
yeah, totally agree. So So this is the One Last Cast podcast. Again, we are live on Wednesday, March 2nd. If you want to listen to us live, we go live every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can listen to us at facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast. We have Daniel Hayes here. He's the owner director of the Saltwater Survival Series. Um, so I guess if what other tournament tips that you would have for somebody who's just starting out? Uh,
Uh, if I had to say, I mean, if you're just getting into tournaments fishing, there's a lot of big tournaments out there, like the GRS. That can be intimidating. It's a lot of big anglers going to be fishing that event, and
So start there, right? No.
don't start with the biggest, baddest tournament. I will say the Saltwater Survival Series does offer you the options of competing with other new anglers, and everybody's. I promise you, if you come to the event, you'll see everyone goes home with something. You can see you can contest to that, right, Bubba?
Yep.
I mean, we want to make sure everyone has a good time. We're not there. Me and Tony, we're showmen. We want everybody to have a great time. Music, barbecue, cold beverages, tons of raffle products, tons of free prizes. You're gonna have a great time no matter what. And that's an experience I think a new angler getting in the tournament scene should feel. It's welcoming, right? You don't walk up to a weigh-in and it's like all these big anglers just sitting around, quiet, talking, and just waiting for the announcements. It can be very stressful, and
Yeah.
so we try to bring that atmosphere. I think it's a better atmosphere for new anglers. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know some of the new anglers. They watch like the Bassmasters or something like that.
yeah,
And all they see is the weigh-in, but there's a whole other side of the tournament.
yeah,
The camaraderie, the food. I know you guys have a new food sponsor. Is that right?
yep, yes, sir.
Yeah, and so there'll be good food there. And I can attest, you do everyone for this tournament at least comes home with something. I
Yep.
was very upset because I think I gave away my raffle ticket last time. That guy won a custom corky.
Man,
I wanted a custom corky. um, but um, it's just a good time, and if you want to gain knowledge, I think that a lot of people are receptive to just talking about their day.
Yeah,
And even if you did horrible, you can find out. You can talk to people who did well, and have an idea of what they did, and maybe you can incorporate that somehow to your next fishing trip. So
100%.
yeah,
We
just
we we
absorbing knowledge.
we encourage that. We ask those questions. We want people to mingle and cut up and eat barbecue next to an angler that's been fishing 8 years plus. And I just got into it, 5 months ago, and be able to. And most of our anglers that fish our event, I would say they're great. They're great guys,
Mhm.
very humble, and they'll share their knowledge with you.
Yeah. Do you have an important question from Aaron? Are there going to be DSKA tacos?
No DSK tacos. Those guys, we love them to death, but they've missed out the past 4 years. They want to fish it, and so they're fishing it this year. So yeah. Uh, as hard as it was for them to step down from doing it because they love doing that so much as well, they want to fish our events, and they've been missing out. So all those guys are gonna be fishing the tournament this year. So
Yeah. So you can't do both because it takes time to make
no,
those good tacos,
it
right?
does. It sure does. Oh, we got some really good barbecue, Bubba, by Third Coast Pit Smoke. Yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be really good.
Yeah. Awesome. I guess before we continue on, I wanted to open up to some of our viewers who are on here. If you guys have any questions about the Saltwater Survival Series, or tournaments, or kayak fishing tournaments in general, just post them up, and we'll see if we can get them answered. Um,
Yep.
and I guess one of the questions I did see, um, let's see, that was about it was about cheating. Uh, and I don't want to keep kind of going back to it because I know it's a touchy subject. But I felt it was a good question. I can't find it, but the question was, if a tournament director, if as a tournament director, if you hear about somebody got banned from another tournament for cheating, would you also ban them from your tournament?
They're black flag.
Okay.
Every tournament series
Yeah.
along the whole Texas coast.
Yeah. So
we communicate very well with all of our other tournament directors that own other
Mhm.
tournaments. So we are all in conjunction, and we talk about this throughout the whole season. So if something like this happens, it is communicated to every series.
Oh, awesome. So
So
that's good to hear.
they're banned for life.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Um, So I guess with your tournament series, it's you have one event. This next event is actually next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next
March 12th. Yep.
March 12th, and it's a redfish one. The one after that is a trout tournament, and then the one after is a flounder tournament. Um, and I know last year you guys did a team tournament. Is that
Yep.
also happening this year as well?
That'll be happening in November. We'll release the date after the redfish tournament, just because we're trying to pin down a good weekend to have it. There's a lot going on in November as well. So the Heroes in the Water it's an organization. We actually donate all our money to the Galveston chapter. Great group of people. It's a great organization. They put veterans on the water with that are amputees, PTSD. And this gets some mind off of the stuff. So we raise money for them for that tournament is solely for them, and it is 100% payout to the anglers. So,
Awesome.
but all money raised at the tournament goes to them. I think last year we raised over $5,000 for them.
Yeah.
Thanks to
awesome.
thanks to y'all. I mean, without y'all, we couldn't have done it. I mean, honestly. So thank you to everybody.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, the Heroes on Water is a great organization. I believe John Stapleton he's running it. A great person. If you ever talk to him, you can always see the passion that he has, especially helping his fellow service members and also for the fishing community. So awesome organization. So even without the tournament, if you ever feel if you have the ability to donate to them, just look up the Gallatin chapter for the Heroes on the Water, and they should be able to bring you up on how to
Right.
donate to their organization.
And they're at every event. They'll have a table set up with a pop-up tent, and they have crates there. If you got extra lures, if you got extra rods, reels, any kind of tackle you want to give, they'll be very grateful. I don't know if y'all heard they got their trailer broken into a couple weeks ago and got all their everything stolen. 5 rods, brand new rods,
Oof, yeah, I saw
reels.
that.
Yeah, bad deal. But I will tell you that I think Eager Baits came through. They're going to send them a huge care package. I mean, everybody's reaching out, and we got a great community of kayak anglers. I think we've got probably the best people in the kayak industry, honestly.
Yeah,
Group of people to help out. So
yeah, that's bar none.
so anything y'all got to give, they'll be at the event. So feel
Awesome.
free to come up and shake John's hand and talk to him about it. And he'll be happy to help tell you all about it.
Awesome. Vincent actually asked another question about
the packages.
About the packages.
Yeah, so the packages were great. It just with the packages, what we found was we were having mass quantities. I mean, you're talking 100 plus lures, right? Of one color, one style, and giving that to 100 anglers. It could be hindering to a company when you got to give away that many of one thing.
Yeah.
We didn't think it was going to take off the way it did. And so it was just when it happened, we had to change gears and do something different.
Yeah.
And then we got to where we're giving out lures, but they're all different colors. So now it's not fair because so-and-so got a different color. That's what made them catch the fish. So now we saw the numbers dropping, so we had to change it up and open up the field to everybody. All lures are accepted. Gulps accepted. Just to make everybody happy. It still ain't easy, right?
Yeah. No, it's still not easy. I do remember I did fish one or two of the events where it was a shotgun start. We got the lure package and it was very interesting.
Oh man.
I remember the first one I was fishing, it was a trout one. And we all met at the Louis Bait Camp, and I signed in and we were all sitting there. I was actually talking to Jonathan Meadows. And we're just sitting there talking, and then we realized that everybody was gone. It's been 10 minutes and everybody already left. The shotgun start already happened. And so we just left and went on our way. But that was a very interesting concept. And it was there's obviously a big novelty to it, but also I just find it was, I can understand why, in terms of from an economic standpoint, it's not viable for a company to do that.
Right.
But it was a very interesting concept where everybody had the same lures, and like everybody had this one top water, this one subsurface bait, these one soft plastics that they could use, and that's all they had, and they all went out and used those.
If you lost them, you lost them. That's it.
You lost them. Yep. Yep.
It was tough, and our numbers just weren't climbing. We were just staying at 50, 60 sometimes. So the only way we could do it, please everybody, was to open it up.
Yeah.
So,
one question I do want to ask. I was thinking about it. Is your strategy any different if you have a team tournament or compared to a solo, where you have 2 people compared to fishing by yourself?
I would say 100%, because each angler fishes differently. They have different styles of fishing, and they fish structure different. They fish deep water different. I mean, so playing off each other's traits is key in a team tournament, and you can actually play out that individual. It might not be your day that day, but he might be on fire.
Yeah.
To your point with you and your buddy, that one day he was catching uppers, you were catching mids, and if y'all had been fishing a team tournament, y'all probably done pretty good, right?
Yeah. I guess I know there's some especially new tournament anglers, they don't like fishing alone. How do you approach that when fishing these solo tournaments?
I have no problem with it, and it's like I said, read the rules. There has to be a certain distance between you and the other angler, and of course, no culling of fish, no sharing of fish. So I would say read the rules, but I have no problem, and I actually say yes, please fish with someone. I want people to fish with each other. It's just for the camaraderie and the safety as well.
Yeah,
things happen on the water. It's no man's land out there sometimes, and I mean, you could fall out your boat. Next thing you know, the current takes it, and you're swimming.
Yeah,
it's happened to me. I know. Thank God for Tony Keel and John Stapleton.
Yeah. For me, I always like fishing with other people as a sanity check, because for me, if I'm not doing well, I'm kind of secretly hoping they're not doing well either.
Yeah.
Because sure. I'd be really mad if they're like just pulling up fish left and right, and I'm like,
yeah.
and then you start getting in your head, and everything goes downhill. So,
That's right.
um, definitely. Again, I definitely encourage if you have the opportunity to fish tournaments. If you're not comfortable fishing by yourself, definitely bring somebody else along. Just read the rules.
Yep. Read the rules.
Every tournament is different.
It is.
So just make sure to understand the rules and know
And
those.
if anybody has questions, me and Tony's numbers are on the website. Please feel free to call us any time of day. We'll answer, and we will be glad to help you out understanding the rules.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I think this is a good stopping point here. There's a lot of information to digest, and we went through a lot in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
But I guess Daniel, if somebody wanted to sign up for the Saltwater Survival Series, how would they do that?
They would go to sssKayakTournament.com and click on registration, top right corner, and follow the directions. It's pretty simple. There is still the $160 in there for the season. If you want to enter in the whole season, you don't have to enter in the whole season. Don't let that confuse you. Right below that will be the individual sign up. Click on that event, and then you can get in on your side pots. We'll pull the 160 for the year out after this redfish series. So.
Yep. And to clarify, the season pass does not include side pods.
Nope,
right?
It does not include side pods. It's just for that way you're plugged in for every event. You don't have to worry about signing up again. But you still have to sign up for each side pod when each series pops up, because the side pods change depending on the species.
Awesome. Yeah, so if you guys want to sign up for the Saltwater Survivor Series, go to sssKayakTournament.com. And of course, for those of you who are live with us right now, if you have commented during the live stream, you will be entered on a drawing for a season pass. I will do that actually right after we get off the air here.
Awesome.
So I guess thank you again, Daniel, for joining us. Daniel here is the tournament owner and director of the Saltwater Survival Series, talking to us about tournaments and everything going on with them. It was very good talking to you, especially at the very last minute, because Merriel, who has joined us now on the chat, was not able to join us. And again, if you guys have any questions, just ask them in this chat, and I'll try to get to it. Merriel will try to get to it.
And I'll go back and read some of the comments too, and then try to answer them if they're to me.
Yeah.
Or
awesome.
or if Tony sees them too, he's following along as well. He'll be glad to answer as well.
Awesome. Again, thank everybody for listening and watching. If you want to join us live, we are at facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast, or you can download our episodes on Spotify, Amazon, all your Apple, all your favorite podcasting platforms. Again, before we hop off, I wanted to give a shout out to a lot of our sponsors, 4A Printing for doing our custom merch for us, towels and buffs. Knock and Tail Lures. Again, I'm going to be fishing the Saltwater Survival Series this not this weekend, the next one, the redfish one coming up, and I will be using Knock and Tail Lures. If you want to get a package of those, use code OLCP 2022. You get 20% off your Knock and Tail Lure order. And of course, DSKA, they're now going to be entering the fray and fishing alongside us during the Saltwater Survival Series. Glad to have them on board as well. So again, thanks everybody watching, and y'all guys have a good one.
Bye, guys.